Hey guys, this is Adam D'Angeli, and in this video I want to give you guys an update on what's going on with a piece of legislation we're calling the Pot Cartel Act or the Cannabis Cartel Act. It's a controversial piece of legislation that will radically alter the caregivers industry. And if you've seen our videos before, you know a little bit about this already, but I did kind of just want to take it from the top here for anyone that's unfamiliar with it. This bill, House Bill 5301 is the big one, although there are some other bills that are like companions to it, but the primary bill 5301 would radically change the caregiver model in Michigan. Most significantly, it would reduce the number of patients a caregiver could have from 5 to 1, and then it would also create a vast regulatory and licensing regime for large-scale growers who are lobbying for this bill effectively to eliminate their competition. There are a small number of large companies that want to get in to growing and distributing marijuana in Michigan, and the way they'll be able to do that profitably is to wipe out their competition, and that's what these bills are really all about. So the Michigan Caregivers Association is effectively trying to defeat this legislation. So I want to let you guys know where it is right now. Today is Tuesday, October 12th. They had a hearing this past Tuesday in the House Regulatory Reform Committee, and this is legislation they've been working on for months and months and months, and until the Michigan Caregivers Association started intensely campaigning against it, they thought it was going to be a done deal. But now things are looking different. A lot of committee members look like they might be voting no, which, if the bill can't pass out of committee, we've done it. We've defeated the legislation. Now, as far as when we can be sure if a bill is dead, you really can't be totally sure until the end of the legislative term, when all bills that haven't been signed into law expire. But that being said, if at their next committee hearing there is no vote to pass the bill out of committee, that means we have dramatically changed the momentum of the bill. It means it's not likely to pass out of committee. It means we are likely to have succeeded, and it means we won't have to work as hard as we've been these past few weeks to stop the momentum. So the way this works is the bill was just introduced in the House. It was in the House Regulatory Reform Committee. And in the normal process of how a bill becomes a law, you have a committee hearing, you have a committee vote, you have a vote on the House floor, then the process repeats and it goes to the Senate, and then it would go to the governor to be signed or vetoed. Now, in this case, because Michigan's medical marijuana law was passed by the voters, they would actually need a higher than normal threshold. Instead of needing a majority in the House and Senate, they would need a 3/4 majority in both chambers, which sounds like it's a very difficult bar to pass over. But the problem is what's called lame duck, and that's the period after Election Day in November 2022. And that's when a lot of lawmakers will be retiring because they are term limited. And a lot of them will have just won their last election because, having just won an election, they are now term limited, including, incidentally, Governor Gretchen Whitmer. And the reason why this is so important to understand is because if, let's say, the bill was passed and signed into law this year, Gretchen Whitmer would have a big political problem because she would probably lose the marijuana vote, which was critical to her winning in 2018. However, in the lame duck period after Election Day, if Whitmer wins or if she loses, either way, she won't have to face the voters again. So would she betray the marijuana voters after the election is over? Possibly. And likewise for all of the representatives and senators who are soon to be retiring or just won their last election, this is the time when they start thinking about their legacy and paying less attention to what the voters back home think, because they're no longer subject to an election by them. In fact, in the lame duck period, every single senator, state senator, has either just won their last term or is already serving their last term, and therefore they aren't impacted by voters' pressure. Now, the good thing about lame duck is that when this period begins after Election Day next year, committee activity almost completely stops. So if the bill is not passed out of the Regulatory Reform Committee in the House, where it is right now, there's a very good chance that it's going to be dead for good. Now, there was no committee meeting today, but that was not because of us. That was because a state lawmaker died a week and a half ago, and today was the day for the services, so they just canceled all the committee meetings. And that was great because it gives, from our perspective, now that it's great that she passed, it's very unfortunate, but it gives us an extra week to try to move committee members towards voting no on the committee. And I'm pleased to say, from the work that the caregivers and other people have done over the past week, that seems to be moving in that direction. And I don't want to name names only because, we don't want to give information to our enemies. We don't want the opposing side to start working on those lawmakers. But the way it looks right now, it looks like some, perhaps even most Republicans on the committee will vote no. And most, perhaps even all of the Democrats on the committee are inclined to vote no. So we're in a very good position right now. This is a bill that originally they didn't think there was going to be any public opposition to, and all of a sudden there is. And a lot of stuff's been going on in Lansing because the Michigan Caregivers Association has been really sounding the alarm in representatives' districts. And that means talking to voters directly through phone calls. That means advertisements running in the zip codes where the representatives' constituents live. That means ads in newspapers and other things that we've been doing to call attention to the issue. Plus also additionally the work of other organizations as well, sounding the alarm about what's been going on. So the momentum is really going in our favor right now. But this is not the time to let up. The committee hearing last week, I think, went fine, although the chairman clearly favored the opposing side. They were given the overwhelming majority of the time. But at the end of the day, committee hearings are really like dog and pony shows. What the members of the legislature are really concerned about is how many constituents back home are going to hear about my vote and are going to be angry if I vote to create a permanent cartel of marijuana interests in Lansing. And the interesting thing is that whatever side of the issue that you're on, whether you think that people should have the right to grow and smoke and use marijuana, or whether you think it should be illegal, either way, chances are you're not in favor of a permanent cartel with a powerful lobbying interest in Lansing. So the word is getting out, and the best thing that we can do right now, that you can do right now, is help us spread the word. Notify people in your community about what's going on. Ask them to contact the representatives. They can call them. They can write them. If you go to micaregivers.com, we have a petition that's very, very easy to sign. You just put in your name and zip code, and it'll identify your lawmakers for you. And if you could, you can support us with a contribution, and we will put that contribution toward more advertisements, towards more sounding the alarm, towards creating more heat in these districts. So what we're really focusing on right now are the members whose vote we're not sure of right now. If they're very likely to vote yes or very likely to vote no, they're not the primary target of the pressure. The most important thing is to get to 8 no votes in the committee. The committee has 15 members, so if 8 of them are going to vote no, then we win. And we just have to sustain that pressure, but it won't be nearly as urgent as it will be just to simply stop the bill right now. So we will probably know next Tuesday. If the bill is not scheduled for a vote, that almost always means they don't have the votes to pass it. And that means we'll very likely succeed. But in the meantime, we have just 1 week left to apply as much pressure as we can. So again, the most important thing is to spread the word, to let people know, to contact your representatives, and to encourage others to contact their representatives. So you can find out all about that at micaregivers.com. Please take a moment, go there, sign the petition if you haven't already, make a contribution if you can, because the what we put into this fight right now is going to be a huge dividend in the long run. If the bill passes out of committee, whether that's next week or the week after, it means we're going to have to work for the entire rest of the term, all the way through the end of 2022, working with members in the House, the entire House, not just the 15 members of the committee, but all 110 of them. So it'll be a much more sustained and expensive, protracted fight, which, again, we won't really know if we've won until the term is over, because anything can happen when it goes into that lame duck period. So once again, thanks for your time. Thanks for your interest in this issue. It's going to be very important. Nobody wants there to be a permanent cartel of powerful corporations for corporate marijuana interests in Lansing. So be sure you spread the word, and let's kill this legislation right now. So thanks again. Peace.